No shortage of equipment here at Wakefield Park. In fact, the XY GT Falcon, one of the most famous cars in Australian motorsport, is here racing. Group NC is its class. V8 Ford engine, 351, well over 300 horsepower, 4-speed gearbox, a heavy car. This particular circuit pretty tough on brakes as well, so there's a fair bit of maintenance involved. But these cars represent some really good memories for a lot of people.
Well, speaking of memories, let's take a step back in time with the Group N vehicles and some classic pieces of gear out there. Ross Donnelly in the Mustang from pole, Peter O'Brien in the Falcon XY out of 2, Rob Tweedy in the Falcon Sprint from 3, and Stevie Williams in the EH Holden coming out of 4. John Cummins with me in commentary. John, this should mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but there's some real action out here.
There certainly is, and cars going back from the first Touring Car Championship, the Grey Pussy back in midfield. Oh, look at that. Oh, well, already first corner, and we've got biffs and bangs, and Bob Tweedy having a go at Bob Asher there as they come round the first corner for the first lap, and there's 10 laps of this, Greg.
Certainly no lack of action already, straight off the line, and I can't imagine just what happened there, but Bob Tweedy seemed to be right in the middle. Let's have a look at it now on the Suzuki replay, in-car camera. You can see here Tweedy has managed to clean up Ross Donnelly on the right, grabs Stevie Williams on the left. Donnelly slams him now to the left. Bob Asher in the Mini from the right-hand side has decided to join the picnic as well. Wow, plenty of action there for the first corner. That's Peter O'Brien in the Falcon XY looking pretty strong. He seems to have made advantage. Look at the damage there on Bob Tweedy's machine. And it looks worse than it is. That's a fiberglass front guard.
It's a fiberglass body all over the Falcon Sprint, and a very controversial car that's been competing for quite some period of time. And the door of Steve Williams' car blowing open. I guess that first lap bingle has caused him a bit of a problem, Greg.
It certainly has. Let's hope that he can either slam it shut, because he will get black flagged. There's no doubt that the officials are going to have something to say about that. O'Brien already starting to make a bit of ground there, and you can see Stevie Williams already oh, look at the side of Rob Tweedy's machine. Dear oh dear. Looking one more time from inside Tweedy's machine. The wipers are going. There's a pretty good reason for that. It's actually sprinkling out on the circuit. The track is wet. It's not really raining at the moment. It's more like a sprinkle, but life would be miserable out there on semi-slick tyres for these guys. Look at the lines of this Falcon XY. Isn't that immaculate? Peter O'Brien has prepared the car himself in a big power slide there as he gets it on. Wakefield, a pretty tight circuit. It would be a real handful, the XY around this circuit. No sign writing on the cars. They must run as they were in their era, and John Cummins, this, for a lot of competitors, is a chance to race cars that they either enjoyed or raced previously.
Well, it certainly is, and there is no signering on the cars, as you say, and there's no prize money. They only race for trophies, and boy, they do a lot of damage and cost them a lot of money just to race for a trophy, Greg.
Have a look at this. Stevie Williams' door wide open. Looks like a paper delivery truck right at the moment. Slammed shut. Now, he's going to have problems with the officials. Surely they'll black flag him unless that door stays shut. We're on board now with Rob Tweedy as he heads onto the straight, power sliding his way onto the straight, in fact, as he comes on by Mick Glover in the Tirana. Just look at the horsepower advantage here. The Tirana does not have an answer. You can really see there's a bit of rain starting to fall now. Tweedy gets off it, looks for his apex. I don't think the aerodynamics are too strong on the car right at the moment. Peter O'Brien out in front of the XY and doing his thing. Ross Donnelly, car 75, the Jolly Roger machine Mustang. Gee, looks knocked around. These two guys will be commiserating for the next couple of months, I reckon, John.
I think the fiberglass people are going to earn $1 or $2 from Bob Tweedy by the look of the car, but it hasn't stopped him driving it just as hard as he always does.
Both sides of the car have copped some real damage out there. This XY fortunately managed to sneak through and not get involved in the action. And personally, I've had a good look at most of these cars in this class, and they are so well presented. When you see this kind of damage done to them, you could almost cry. But we're starting to see now into Group N. We've got Group NB, Group NC. Now, the Group NC cars are these later model touring cars of yore. And one thing is for certain, I think it just increases the crowd awareness of how great these cars were in their day.
It certainly does, and these cars take over in 1965, the improved production touring cars, which didn't have the big overbores that the original Appendix J cars had. They've got a 40-thou overbore, and they've got disc brakes where the other cars had drums. So there's a big difference, Greg, in the style of cars. It's a complete change of specification.
Well, it's great to see that the competitors have got in behind it. When you look at someone like O'Brien or Ross Donnelly or Bob Tweedy, they have an enormous investment in the cars, and yet this seems to be the class where everybody rubs panels. We've seen races over the last couple of years where the Group NC, the Group NB, the Appendix Js, as we've sort of known them in the last few years, they race door handle to door handle and really don't hold anything back. They are very serious competitors. Look at Peter O'Brien here in this machine. Absolutely immaculate, keeping it tidy. It's a tough car to drive in a very smooth line around it. Look at some of the gear out here, John.
Oh, that's an NA car. That's the new class for up to 58 cars, and they've got very restricted modifications. But he was doing the right thing. He had the hand signal of where he wanted him to pass.
Well, one of our favourites out there is the Zephyr, and I'm sure most people remember the Zephyr. Back on board now with Rob Tweedy. Now remember that this is a huge race going on. He gets up onto the tail of O'Brien. Now, how's it going to go as they come onto the straight here at Wakefield? O'Brien gets it down and just seems to make that little bit of a gap. I'm not sure, but I'd have to say that it seems to be machine set up with these two cars. O'Brien's car just seems to get out of the corners. Tweedy seems to have the power and the speed.
Yes, well, it's a very, very powerful car of Tweedy's, and it's very well prepared and always very, very well driven. We have seen the NC cars running at Winton, where they had vast superiority over the old Appendix J cars, Greg.
Well, one thing is for sure and certain at this point in the race, Tweedy is doing everything he possibly can. He's already dinged his car on every corner and every side that it owns. He's really got nothing to lose. Having said that, though, Rob Tweedy is a professional racer. He does know what he has to do out there. Unfortunately, that start line incident, and you know, you can't even forget it, because every time he looks out of the bonnet, just as we are here, he can see that smashed guard right up onto the tail of Peter O'Brien now. And look, if you look carefully there, you can see the P plate on the back of Peter O'Brien's machine, indicating that to this point in his racing career, he hasn't done 5 national races. So really, he's got a long way to go when it comes to the experience of the man behind him. So theoretically, he's got a big future, young O'Brien.
I think we'll see a lot of him in future Appendix J races, and of course there's so many historic races that Appendix Js can now run, and it's really getting cranked up now. They're lapping some of the slower cars, and this is where Tweedy might get a bit of an advantage.
Well, you'd imagine that provided everyone was looking in their mirrors, it should work out okay for O'Brien. That's not always the case. Here's a Vauxhall. Look at the old Holden doing its thing out there. This is a great class.
Alan Barrow.
Yeah, this is a fantastic class to just sit back and think about the old days, and yet these cars are being raced now with all the ferocity that they were in their day, and no one's holding back any longer. Maybe the old Zephyr off to the side there. Speaking of the Zephyr, well, the rain's falling even harder now. You can actually see the rain coming down onto the track, making life pretty difficult out there. Oh, Tweedy clips the inside of the corner, and just threw the Falcon Sprint to the side. He didn't back off, he just got into it, kept the pedal down, and that's what he's about here. He's enjoying himself. That damage, I think, looks a little worse than it might be.
Well, that's what happens with fiberglass. You tear a lump of fiberglass, it looks as though the whole car's about to fall in half. Here's one of the classic Jaguars heading some of the Minis and some of the midfield cars, and gee, there was a lot of midfield dicing in this race. We've been concentrating on the leader because that's where it's all about, but the midfield racing has been absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I think really one of the great things about this class, and again coming from Tweedy, oh, this is close now. She's a definite drag race down the straight, and O'Brien really has to keep his nerve now. He's got a very experienced Tweedy in behind him, and Falcon has some pace, doesn't it? As you can see, the red XY just pulling away down the straight. Now, final lap. This really is crunch time. What can Tweedy do about this? He's got the pace. He's trying to put the pressure on. O'Brien definitely resisting. Stevie Williams now in drama. And you can see how slippery it is out there. John Cummins, at least the door's closed.
Yeah, but now he's got to open it. So, he's still in trouble, but out in the front, it's still O'Brien with Tweedy really pressuring him. And he doesn't care if he bends the front of the car, because that happened in the first lap. But they've got a couple of lap cars there to pass, and they're up on the top section of the circuit now, getting very, very close indeed, and there's not too many more corners where Bob Tweedy can take advantage of O'Brien as they rip past a Mark III Zephyr there, and coming back onto the from the top part of the circuit. Downhill they go, and the pressure is really on, as you say.
Well, you've got to hand it to Peter O'Brien, you know. He has really just driven the car, and he's done it cleanly, and that's what it's all about. Realistically, it's unusual to see this kind of damaged under vehicles here at Wakefield. It is so safe. There's virtually nothing to hit other than another car. And right at the moment, Peter O'Brien keeps the pedal down, keeps it tidy. What a great run it's been from him. He will be ecstatic. The team will be so pleased with this. Checkered flag time. So O'Brien grabs it, Tweedy in behind him. And as you've seen from the in-car camera, action aplenty here at Wakefield.